Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Summer of Access for our last session of the series. We're so excited. It's been a wonderful summer. We're so glad that you're here. I'm going to read off just a couple of introduction content here and then pass it over to Kelly. So we'll give it about 30 seconds. Let folks join us. You can say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from today. Hey, Sheila. How are ya? Good to see you here. Um, see some familiar names.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Emmy, Ann, Robert, Christina, and Matisse. Is that correct? Yes. Welcome. All right. Well, let's get started. I'm so excited about today's session. So let's welcome you all to Empathy, the Secret Ingredient of Accessible Design, our final session of Summer of Access webinar series brought to you by L'Etoile Education and the Accessibility L&D community. A couple of reminders as we get started here in our Zoom meeting. We have the chat and raised hand feature available as needed. Please stay muted unless you're speaking. Recordings will be shared in the Accessibility L&D Slack community following our session. We have live captions and transcripts available today throughout the session. I'd like to welcome our presenter, Kelly Thibodeau. Kelly is the founder and president of Squarely Accessible with over 25 years of experience helping organizations and nonprofits make online marketing accessible. Inspired by lived experience as the daughter of a disabled mom, she's passionate about humanizing accessibility and showing it's not boring or complicated. Kelly has trained professionals across Canada and beyond, and also serves on boards supporting disability inclusion and meaningful work. Please join me in welcoming Kelly to the Summer of Access. We're really excited for this session. Kelly, I'll stop my share and turn it over to you.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Nicole. I am excited to be here. Also excited to be closing out this series. This has been such a great experience, and I just love that you're spreading like more knowledge about accessibility because we need more folks talking about it and more folks doing the work. So I'm excited to bring together a little bit of a blend of some of my user experience chops along with accessibility and hopefully help you to start thinking about uh, instructional design in a bit of a new way. So with that, I always like to start some sessions. I'll also want to acknowledge that I live and work on Treaty 1 territory, which is the land of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and the homeland of the Red River Métis. And my pronouns are she and her. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat, but Nicole, if there's anything that comes in, feel free to jump in. So this is going to be an interactive session. I will ask you to use the chat, use reactions. We're going to do some breakout room activities together. And so it's going to be a jam-packed kind of 50 minutes while we're here. So first, some things that I like to start out with as I look at my own experience and lens on work in accessibility and inclusion and belonging, things that I like to bring into the session. So, as we get started and as you're thinking through these, I'd invite you to find something here that you can take with you today. So, first, content can't be conversational until it's inclusive. And conversations are deeper and more meaningful by bringing diverse people and perspectives together. Next, practice makes permanent, which means that small starts are better than not starting at all, and no single person has all the answers. Learning, unlearning, and course correcting are all part of our collective journeys. Creating safe spaces where we can all thrive means including racialized, disabled, two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, questioning queer, intersex, asex, and other sex and gender identities and all under-recognized communities. And that people with privilege are capable of and responsible for changing systems designed to benefit them, so they're designed to benefit everyone. And I also, stating a little bit of the obvious, but inclusion also means that we use captions. And so, Nicole, like, thank you for making sure that that's taken care of with Zoom. We know that AI captions, aka craptions, are not always the most accurate. I'd also encourage you that, wherever you're delivering presentations or talks or material in any way or teaching a class, that you also turn on captions. And so just a little bit of a reminder, right? So, and if you haven't used them in Zoom before, turn them on, move them around. You can move them around the screen. You can change the size of the font, the color of the font, all that kind of thing. So I also just like to encourage some experimentation and play as we're sort of trying to understand more of an experience that someone else might have. And you're also here because you believe in thinking differently about inclusive design. So I'm thrilled to be among friends and colleagues who share those same values. So here's a little bit of my backstory, and Nicole mentioned this already in the introduction, but the reason that I'm so passionate about this work is because of my mom. Her name was Marlene Patricia Greenwood, and although she would have insisted that you call her Marty, in this picture, she's sitting in a wheelchair beside a raised garden bed on a sunny day, and she has short white hair. She's wearing glasses and she's wearing a maroon top and beige pants, and she's smiling with her hands clasped together on her lap. My mom wasn't born with a disability. At the age of 35, she started showing symptoms of being shaky, a little unsteady on her feet, and her personality started to change. I would have been about 8 years old. And by the time I was 16, we found out that my mom had a rare neurological disease called olivopontocerebellar ataxia, or OPCA, which now is known as multiple system atrophy, cerebellar subtype. Over time, part of her brain started to shrink, and it affected her speech, her balance, and her coordination, and she had dementia. This picture was taken on July 16th, 2016, and my mom was 71 years old. Her disease progressed really slowly and over time resulted in disability. So by the time she was about 49 years old, she needed a cane to walk. At 65, she started using a wheelchair full time, and she went from needing help getting dressed to requiring assistance with every aspect of her life. And as her daughter and her caregiver, I witnessed how the world became less and less accessible for her. My mom passed away in 2017 at the age of 72. And, she loved to laugh and she had a big heart. She really accepted people for who they were and made people feel comfortable around her. And she was proud. She didn't complain and she was hesitant about accepting help, which, as I think just as her daughter, I wanted to honor and respect, how she felt. So I'm sharing my mom's story with you because, as I said, or as I continue to say, accessibility is personal. And I know that I'm not the only person in our virtual room here together who knows or loves someone who has a disability. So you're here to help bring about change. And I want you to become more curious about digital accessibility and accessible learning. And follow that curiosity, and together we can help make the online world a more inclusive place where everyone feels like they belong. So at the end of the session today, you'll be able to explain the role of empathy in instructional design and its impact on creating accessible learning experiences. You'll be able to use empathy maps. So if that's a new term, I'm going to figure out what that is today to analyze learner experiences, emotions, and challenges to create more accessible content. And you'll be able to evaluate, address cognitive, emotional, and environmental barriers to learning through empathy-driven insights and design inclusive learning experiences that cater to diverse learning needs and styles based on those empathy insights. So here's a little bit of what we're going to cover. We'll talk about personas and empathy and what personas are and not. What we mean by empathy. So I think it's a word that kind of gets thrown around a lot, but I think it's helpful to kind of look at what are we really talking about. We'll talk about empathy maps, using empathy maps as a design tool and its connection to accessibility. We'll have that group activity. So I think it'll be about 10 minutes in a breakout room, but we'll kind of do a time check and see where we're at. And then we'll have some time for takeaways and a Q&A. Okay, so what is a persona exactly? So, according to Alan Cooper, who is the creator of personas are hypothetical archetypes of actual users. So you may or may not actually use the word persona. That started in user experience and it sort of like made its way to marketing, like many things have. You might call it an ideal learner profile. You might call it an avatar or something else. So a learner persona is a fictional profile of your digital course's target audience. And let's face it, when you're building digital learning, The first thing is understanding who you're building that learning for. So audience becomes job number one. And so enter the persona. So a typical tool. The image on this slide shows a persona template from the Digital Learning Institute. And there's a picture at the top of Marianne, a person with dark skin tone and long black hair wearing glasses. So I'm just gonna read through this persona a little bit so that you can get a sense of what's here. So Marianne, we know that that's her name. There's a bio here, so she's a young, energetic sales assistant. She loves fashion and all things related to it. She holds an Instagram account and started her influencer career. She's determined to succeed and become a fashion designer. Who is it? She's 24. Her job is a shop assistant. Her location is Belfast. And her time with Annie's, which sounds like it's the name of the shop that she's working at, has been 4 months. We look at her goals and aspirations. So we have some idea here about her main goals and drivers. Looks like she's more motivated by social and growth, a little less motivated by power, and maybe slightly more motivated through achievement, incentive, and fear. Her expectations and perceptions of digital learning. She wants to learn skills needed for the job, and she wants to learn new things on the go in a limited time. She's frustrated by systems and processes at work and by managing clients. And as far as technology goes, she's got great computer skills, great social networking skills, a little higher than average on software. And so she's pretty tech friendly, right? She's pretty high on internet and IT, also mobile devices and apps. So this gives us a little bit of an idea when you're thinking about who am I designing this learning for. That starts with some surface level information about who this person actually is. And so Marianne is not necessarily an individual, but she might represent a group of people who might share a learning experience. So I'm curious to know, and this is where I'll ask for your participation. You can use the reactions or chat. Do you use personas? And so is it a yes or a no? And do you call it persona or do you call it something else? So yeah, either use reactions or put something in chat. Let me know where this lands for you so far. Okay, Robert, you've used personas before. Okay. And it looks like okay, we've got a mix, yes and no. Some that use them all the time. Some don't use them yet, have not. Okay. Some for projects, but not for everyday work. And Madeline, use them for customer experience. Okay, not yet. You call them personas. Okay. Does anybody call them anything else? Okay. All right. Well, thanks for sharing what your experience is with them. It's always good for me to know. I have started this talk before by just a big, bold question of do you use personas? And sometimes it leaves people a little more puzzled. So I always just like to do a check-in and see how this lands for you. Okay, so why personas? Well, first, they can be helpful in understanding your audience. They bring learners to life, right? Like we're no longer talking about some sort of figment of someone's imagination and sort of busting through some of those ideas that our customers or our learners are just like us, right? And sometimes if you're working in an organization, you have colleagues or you have leaders or managers you're reporting to, it kind of helps to sort of bust through some of those assumptions. Uh, we use fictitious pictures, we give them a name, and we make some educated guesses about their demographics, like their age, their job title, their location, and we paint a bit of a story of who they are. They help us to get buy-in. So when you're working with leaders, you sort of have your persona in whatever shape it is, and you basically get consensus that everybody's on the same page about who you're building courses for. We might even include some of those details we saw in the example, like how comfortable they are with computers, or what motivates them to learn, or what their pain points are. And we create personas with good intentions. So they can be a key part of designing because they help us define who we're designing for. They set the context for how our persona might learn and understand what motivates them to learn. But they don't go far enough. So, what's the solution? Empathy. So, what do we mean by empathy? So, there are many different kinds of empathy, and Indy Young, the author of the book Practical Empathy, defines cognitive empathy as purposely discovering the underlying thoughts and emotions that guide someone else's decisions and behavior. So, empathy is the deeper understanding of what someone thinks, feels, and experiences. It's about understanding, not about projecting. So, in other words, about knowledge and not about assumptions. And empathy is not the same as sympathy. So, empathy involves understanding another person's perspective, and sympathy is feeling sorry for someone's misfortune without necessarily feeling their emotions. And developing empathy is a skill. So, first and most important is a curious mindset, and it requires active listening. So, when you're thinking about, talking to a learner or learning about, what someone's experience is, don't ask about the task itself. Instead, ask about the broader context. So, instead of asking, what was your experience with the onboarding training? You might instead ask, when you joined the organization, what went through your mind? And then put yourself into a state of listening. So set aside your own inner dialogue and avoid the temptation to formulate a response. Listen for specific words and details. And if you need more information, ask for it in an exploratory way with questions like, can you tell me more about that? Or what was on your mind? And empathy takes practice. So it's a mindset that you can drop into for the purposes of gathering knowledge. You drop into a bit of a neutral frame of mind. So try to discover the deeper reasons behind what someone is saying and shut down your own thinking or emotions. And I don't know about you, but when, especially if it's like, say, personal, sort of more family charged, it can be really tough to quiet that inner dialogue. But hopefully, in learning and design, more professional context, perhaps it's a little bit easier. But you might already be thinking about what's my boss going to say? What do I think? What do I do with this? Really just quiet that inner dialogue and take the time to listen. So, listen for keywords or repeated phrases and make a mental note of them. And if you can't talk to learners directly, listen to recordings of customer service or sales calls. Like get closer to the people who are closer to those learners. Talk to other departments like human resources. Talk with the folks that are most closely connected with your audience and listen with empathy. So let's take this and next go and look at an example of another persona. So this is Andy. He's an archetype of a particular type of person, in this case, the data enthusiast. Andy is 31. He works in Dublin, Ireland, and he's married. He has a master's degree in data sciences. His goals include short-term goals, enhancing skills in big data technologies, long-term goals of leading a data science team, personal goals, maintaining a healthy work-life balance, and his barriers include keeping up with rapidly changing technologies and data integration issues. So, personas show who someone is, but not what it's like to be them while they're learning. So, let me ask you again, what do we still not know about this learner? Think about that for a minute and put your answer in chat. What do we still not know? Yeah, Agnes, we don't know his motivations, right? Yeah, day-to-day stuff, Robert. Jacob, attitude towards learning and training. Yeah. And if your answer is I don't know or I'm not sure, that's a fair answer, and you can put that in chat too. Emmy, how he thinks and learns, his daily routine, his physical ability. Right. You're all building on the same things. So we don't know any cognitive barriers that he might be facing or the environment that he's working in, right? Like, what's his day to day, exactly what some of you have said in the chat. What's his day to day environment? And how does he best learn? What's the environment that he best learns in? So, how can we complete this picture? So this is where I'm going to pull out my user experience tool, and the answer is an empathy map. So an empathy map is a user experience tool, and it's a collaborative visual used to articulate what we know about a particular type of user, or in this case, learner. So in the middle, you see user. I'm going to say swap that out with learner. Um, and it externalizes knowledge to create a shared understanding of user needs and aid in decision making. So this is from Nielsen Norman Group, who are one of the first folks that were thought leaders within the user experience space. And it's the empathy map is broken into quadrants. So I'm going to start at the top left so that you can understand what belongs in each and what are we trying to articulate. And the one thing that I will say about the empathy map as well, it should be really based in evidence and research of what you actually know from other people, right? So this isn't really an exercise of you kind of guessing. That's what we're kind of going to do for the purposes of this webinar. But think about the evidence that you could provide that would fill in the blanks in each of these quadrants. So first is says. So says is what the learner says out loud in an interview or in some other type of study or conversation. So ideally, it contains verbatim and direct quotes from research. Or like I said, if you're sort of, connecting with, say, your HR team or your sales team or your training team, or things like that. So what are the things that you're able to say someone is saying out loud? That's what belongs in sets. Next is thinks. So thinks captures what the learner is thinking throughout the experience. So ask yourself from the qualitative research that you've gathered, what occupies their thoughts? What matters to them? And you can sometimes have the same content between says and thinks, but the important distinction is that thinks might be something they're thinking, but they're not ready to say that out loud. So pay special attention to that and try to understand what they're reluctant to share. Are they unsure? Are they self-conscious? Are they overly polite or afraid to tell somebody something? Then does, if we go back to the lower left, encloses the actions that the learner takes. So from the research, what does the user physically do and how do they go about doing it? If it's online, are they checking the website or maybe they're talking to a colleague or they're checking with their manager? Do they really need to take the training, right? Like, so what are the things that they're actually doing? And then feels is the learner's emotional state, often represented as an adjective plus a short sentence for context. So ask yourself, what worries the learner? What do they get excited about? And how do they feel about the experience? So from empathy to accessibility. So designing with empathy surfaces invisible barriers and supports inclusion. So you have probably have a great base to come from, right? Of thinking about what are the things that we generally kind of like the tactics that we go to make sure that content is accessible. So people who are new to the language would benefit from captions as well as people with hearing disabilities. People who are distracted would benefit from bold headings or simple sentences or clear space. And clear space is a sort of a new-ish term on something you might be familiar with as white space. Clear space is a more inclusive way to express that. So when I say clear space, that's what I'm talking about. And people who are colorblind would benefit from accessible color palettes. And there are likely other examples as well. So start thinking about what those other examples are and by thinking about empathy first, it changes how you start to think about and plan for accessibility because it's earlier in the design process, right? We keep saying shift left, get earlier. Well, exactly how do we do that? And this can be one way that you start thinking about accessibility early on. So here's another example. So we'll go back to that last example of a persona and we'll bring back Andy. It's a little smaller this time, but let's say we're developing a new module for compliance training. So how might this information affect learning design decisions? So let's think about an empathy map for this. So for Andy, remember it's compliance training, he might be saying, how long will this take? What's the deadline? Like, when do I need to take this? He might be thinking, I don't have time for this. I have trouble memorizing stuff. It's too noisy and chaotic at my desk. I'm not sure, right? Like how I'm actually going to get this done. The things he might be doing, he might be rereading the instructions or talking to his manager or trying to find a quiet location to focus. Knowing this is compliance training, he probably has to do it at some point, and there is a deadline associated with it. And how he might be feeling. He might be feeling overwhelmed because he already has a heavy workload day to day. He might be anxious about not sort of passing, right? Memorizing all this stuff and needing to pass. And also maybe a little unmotivated because although he has to do it, it doesn't really relate to his day-to-day job. So then how might I layer empathy or accessibility onto the empathy work? So for says, I might start thinking about, okay, so this person is busy. They've got lots going on. Maybe I can provide instructions in multiple places. So these are suggestions, not necessarily a, concrete example, but just trying to walk you through how does an empathy map help to generate ideas about making learning more accessible. For thinking, he might be thinking. So the things that we could do to help with what he's thinking is we could add information about how long it takes. Is it a 30-minute module? Is it an hour module? Is it a half-day module? Where to take the training? Can we, suggest that someone finds a quiet location rather than trying to complete it in a busy work environment? Uh, and we could maybe change the quizzes, right? Like reevaluate the quizzes and think what really needs to be tested. And does someone actually need to memorize this? Or is that like, what kind of requirement is that? And maybe add captions to some of the videos. If Andy can't change where his location is, can we support his learning in a different way? For the things that he's doing, using plain language and clear space will help with that so that it's a more inviting experience. And with how he's feeling, we could really re examine when and why we're using timers, maybe avoid them altogether. Maybe we don't need them. Allow for people to retake. If they don't pass, then, what's the consequence really? And think about the requirements for passing. So, again, is this something that really needs to be memorized, or is this just something we want to make sure that people are aware of? And can we design the learning a little bit differently to accommodate that? And choose accessible indicators for correct and incorrect, right? So we know don't rely on color alone to convey meaning. So thinking about, how can we make that a better experience? So with this, I would ask some reflection questions and think about what accessibility or inclusion barriers might this learner face with this learning experience. And how could we design this module differently to support this learner's needs? And what small change might make the biggest impact? So, if we can't do everything, what are some of the small things that we could do to make this a better learning experience? So, now I'm going to actually put you to work into a bit of a breakout activity. So, I'm going to explain it first. And there should be, Nicole, I'm going to say maybe 4 people in a breakout room.
So
It just
yeah,
looks.
and I also asked who could not participate due to office, where they are, making sure that they can. And so I have set it so those who are not able to participate will not be in a room, and those who did not message me can go to a room. So it's about 3 to 4 based on that number.
Okay, perfect. That
Okay.
sounds great. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to say assign one person to be a bit of a facilitator. So somebody's going to need to share their screen. Somebody else maybe can take notes, or you can do it together in small groups. Start with the says quadrant. So we're going to look at some learner profiles, and then I'm going to ask you to think about completing an empathy map. And so says is generally filled in with a lot of them, and then work through the other quadrants, and then review the reflection questions and make note of what was discussed. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to put a link to a shared document into the chat. Nicole, do you need me to do that or do you still have it?
I did that just now, but I'm also noticing that there's more folks that are unable to participate. So if I didn't, I'm not going to stop and do a reshuffle at this time. So if you get an invite and you are not able to, just stay in the main room for now.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and we can go through one together for those that want to stay in the main room. We don't just have to
Okay.
not do it for 10 minutes. So, okay. So let me bring that up.
So would you like me to open up the rooms now, or do you want to walk through it a bit first?
Yeah, I'll walk through it a bit first and then we can open up the rooms. So I think, are we still good? We should still be good for 10 minutes, hey, Nicole? I think
Yeah,
so.
I think so. You're half past the hour.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna come up to the top here. So there's instructions included with this Google document. You can see there's a number of you in here already, so that's great. And feel free to work right in this document. This is set up just for the purpose of today. So if you want to take a copy, you can, but don't worry about messing things up. Don't worry about any of that kind of thing. I'm going to ask for people in their groups to pick a learner profile that you want to work with. There's about 5 of them within this document. So first one is the novice learner. And the instructions create an empathy map to identify what the person thinks, says, does, and feels. And like I said, this is going to be a bit of a like, you know, choice by committee, maybe small group that we're just walking through the exercise to be more familiar with it. A reminder of what the quadrants mean. So says, thinks, does, and feels. And then we get down to the learner profile. So the first one is Maya. Uh, Maya's age is 28, and Maya was recently hired as an administrative assistant at a mid-sized organization. Uh, they are new to the role and unfamiliar with many internal systems. Their tech comfort is moderate or confident with a smartphone, but uneasy with new platforms. So read that, take a look at it, and then come down to the empathy map. So, like I said, says is partly filled in already, but knowing, so you're thinking about Maya, thinking about the learning experience, what is the training scenario, and then what are the things that might belong in says, thinks, does, and feels. So you'll be able to click within each one of these and then just start typing whatever it is that you want to put in there. Once you've done that, or you feel like you've got to a reasonable place with the empathy map, then bring in these reflection questions of what accessibility or inclusion barriers might this learner face with the learning experience? How could we design the module differently to support this learner's needs? And what small change would make the biggest impact for that learner? So like I said, there's a few different profiles in here. We've got the busy learner as we keep scrolling down, the skeptical learner. Keep going, we've got the neurodivergent learner, and then the last one is the visual learner with low vision. So in your group, pick one and get to work on that. So you've got 10 minutes. And if you need any help in the breakout rooms, feel free to call me in and happy to answer any questions. But I think that should get us set up with everything.
Okay, great. So I think that I did it in a way that only assigned those folks who were able. And so if you are staying with us, great. And the rooms are open. Okay.
All right.
I just want to make sure that no one ends up in a room by themselves. That's all.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And the remaining are staying with us.
Okay. So let me put you all to work. So let's go back. I'll open up the shared document, just so that we're all looking at the same thing. So I'm going to ask for your help. Which learner profile would you like to work with? You can come off mute. You can put it in chat, whatever you're most comfortable with.
I think we're going to utilize the chat, being that most are in spaces that maybe are shared workspaces or issues with microphones. So the chat feature sounds like the best option for us.
Perfect. Thanks, Nicole.
And if there's, what was the question was which one? So give everyone time to
Yes.
think. Yeah, okay.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. Matisse, thanks for jumping in. The visual learner with low vision. Okay, that's the one that's up here. Is everybody else okay with that? Maybe give it, I see a couple of thumbs up for that suggestion. So I'm going to say that's good representation of who's here. So take a minute, read the learner profile, and let's start working through the empathy map. So once you've read the instructions, maybe put a thumbs up in the chat, and then we'll get to work. Hey, Matisse, thanks. Mm,
Kelly, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yep, for sure.
So when we're reading the persona, and then as a group, we will be filling in what we think the thinks, the does, and the feels are based on that persona or information you provided us. Okay,
Yes,
got it.
yes,
Thank you.
yep, yep. Yeah, if folks want to, if you've read the profile, you're comfortable with the instructions, and you want to jump into the empathy map, yeah, if you can access the shared document, feel free to start filling some things in. If you have questions, we could put them in chat. If you prefer that I facilitate that, I'm happy to do that as well. But yeah, let's start with so in says we've got, I can't tell what this image is showing. The layout is hard to follow. What might this person be thinking? It's just occurred to me that if another group picked this learner profile as well, we might see each other's answers, but we'll run with it. It'll be fine. So thinking is what the person might be thinking in their head, but not willing to say out loud. So if you know or have worked with someone who has low vision, that might be something that you could draw on to help complete this. If not, again, flex your empathy muscle and think about what that learner might be experiencing and what they might be saying to themselves. Or, sorry, thinking to themselves. Okay, Christina, how am I going to get this completed if I can't tell what the image is? Yeah, that's great. I'm going to put that in here.
How can I see or understand this complex image that has a lot of graphics without a description?
Anybody else? Am I missing something? Yeah. Are my hiring practices not inclusive? Madeline, do you think that is a says or a thinks? It could be either, honestly. That might be something that they are asking a colleague. Yes, we are talking about things, but there can be some commonalities between says and thinks. So sometimes someone might verbalize it out loud and be thinking it in their head at the same time. What about any like frustrations? Like it might not all be kind of positive stuff, right? Yeah, negative thoughts towards the organization for not creating training that works for them. Yeah, why am I working here if I can't access the learning? I'm going to paraphrase that. Heather, let me know if you're okay with that. Okay, so that's a good start for things. Let's come into does, just sort of keeping an eye. Nicole, how much time do we have left in the breakup?
They've got about 3 minutes.
Okay, like 3 minutes left.
Correct.
Okay. All right, let's go into does then and maybe just jot a couple of ideas down here. If this is feeling like a little sticky, you're not sure, that's totally okay. This is like your space to experiment and play, so don't worry about getting it all right and perfect. Matisse, are we assuming that the assistive technology is working well with the training? Just thinking the org is using an overlay and their AT no longer engages properly, that would lead to a load of other things. Yeah, no doubt. I don't think we're making any assumptions at this point, but that's a good call. So what are a couple of quick things that this person might be doing? Yeah, Nicole, frustration beforehand. Yeah, most learning is not screen reader friendly. Comes in feeling anxious. Okay, so let's put anxious under feels and frustrated.
So
Any
does
idea?
might be that they don't try. They click through whatever they can click through, complete whatever they can, but don't really engage with the content. Just do it
Yeah.
for compliance sake.
Okay. Yeah, Courtney. Yeah, thanks, Nicole. Tries regular tools with varying success. So we've got success and frustration. Yeah, does and feels. Okay, so we're starting to paint a little bit of a picture here. Um, and keep thinking about things. If you have other ideas, I'm happy to add them. But now think about what accessibility or inclusion barriers might this learner face with the learning experience? Yeah, positive. Nicole offers to help with testing on the new course. Yeah. Yeah. So now maybe I'll just ask you to take some time to think about these three reflection questions just to maximize the very short window of time we no doubt have left. Uh, and think about, okay, yeah, what are some things that might apply to this? So you can continue to have access to this shared doc after. I'm also happy to send out an empathy map template if you'd like that. But again, this is a bit of a new exercise, totally get that. So just start thinking about some of these reflection questions and how it would relate to the things that you've pulled out in the empathy map.
I really love this as an intro to this to you got us into the flow and we could go deeper into it at a later time. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, well, okay. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this, and I think everybody's back from breakouts now, Nicole, is that right?
Uh, the room's closed, so they'll be sent back probably in about 2 seconds.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. See, what am I sharing? There we
All right,
go.
everyone has been sent back. We're all in the main room.
Okay, just going to bring this back to where we were. Okay, so I might just ask folks to post in chat. I know we only have a few minutes left in our time together this morning. So, what were some things that surprised you And what design changes did you talk about making? I'm not sure if you got all the way through the empathy map and the reflection question, so let me know kind of where you landed. But love your insights about how empathy might shape your future learning designs, or the things that you talked about, some surprises, what was the experience like? If folks would volunteer to share a little bit of what that was like, that would be great. Yeah, Robert, always jarring to get warped back into the main room. Agreed. It's like, yeah, there is no gentle way. It's like all in and all out. Yeah. Agnes, yeah, didn't get to the design changes. We brainstorm a lot. And you can keep access to that document if you'd like, or I'd be happy to send it out after for those that are part of Nicole's Slack group, or if you're not, if you wanted to share your email with me, I'll give you my email contact info, then I'm happy to share some of that.
I feel like it
Anybody
was
else?
very, I feel like it was very powerful of just really, I do feel like you get very empathetic when you're thinking through those things. Like I was feeling anxious for her, I'm like, oh,
Mm,
she's going to be, English isn't our first language and she's, having to read these policies, which is probably a lot of jargon and, other things that are very hard to understand. So I don't know. I felt very empathetic and felt like I could definitely think through and design better based on just taking that very simple step. But I felt like it was, yeah,
yeah.
a good
Thanks,
tool.
Emmy. Yeah, appreciate that. Hey, Robert, our group benefited from putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope that it helps to spark some new ideas, just help you start thinking a little differently by using a tool like an empathy map so that accessibility isn't sort of that last step when it gets really heavy and it feels like, I don't know if I have time for this and all of that type of thing, right? So helping you to think earlier in the design process and how you can start thinking about accessibility right from the beginning. So Nicole, the session prompted me to ask who would and could participate in a breakout room activity. Yeah, that was great, Nicole. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the way that you approached that. Okay, so here's some information, what else you can do. Start with education and awareness, gain those insights and knowledge and expertise by working with people with disabilities. So think about what those accessible learner journeys look like for your audience and look at feedback around accessibility and bring people who have disabilities into the conversation. Next, enroll in training to build your knowledge and skills. And number three, include disabled people in your entire process. So, folks with disabilities are the experts. I don't think that that's something that I have to convince any one of you of that's in this room, but empathy and curiosity will equal more accessible and inclusive design. So go beyond those traditional learner personas and talk to real learners. Use the empathy maps to document what learners say, think, do, and how they feel. So accessibility becomes part of the design process instead of a compliance or checklist activity. Um, I'd be curious to know sort of, we've talked a little bit about how this has landed for you, but I'll ask you in a minute just to share like a takeaway that you might take into your next project. In terms of what's next, so Squarely Accessible also offers training. And what accessible PowerPoints class is one of the next classes that are coming up in October. Where you will learn how to create and deliver accessible presentations. So we use real world examples. You get a sample presentation. We work on it together. It's a 3 hour instructor led class. And you get those resources so that you can keep learning when class is done. And one of the things that a participant had to say was, I didn't even know some of the features shown today on top of making it accessible is amazing. So you can use the QR code or go to the Squarely Accessible website. Stay up to date by learning how to create and deliver accessible presentations. And people from amazing organizations are already signing up. So I would love for you to be able to join before we fill up the class. So wanted to share some information there. And then just a couple of thoughts to close. So first is a quote from Haben Gurma, who is the first deafblind Harvard Law School graduate. And it says, disability is rarely the barrier. Society creates the barriers. So this is prompting, I think, to think differently about disability, to focus on those barriers created in society and to change them. So in our context, it's about removing barriers in learning design so that people with disabilities can participate and have an equivalent experience. And practice makes permanent. So this is a picture of a letterboard in my office. It's a black felt letterboard with white lettering on it in a white frame that says practice makes permanent. So it's not practice makes perfect, it's practice makes permanent. So accessibility is a practice. And remember that small starts are better than not starting at all. Think about those one or two small changes that could make a significant difference for your learners. So learning, unlearning, and course correcting are all part of our collective journeys. Don't let perfection get in the way. Take action and keep taking action and be willing to not get it right the first time or maybe the second or even the third time. But as long as you adopt a learning mindset and let curiosity lead the way, then together we can make some really significant changes. So start talking about it, keep talking about it. And also, I promise my contact information. You can always get a hold of me through my website. But if you have any questions, happy to answer them here or after the session as well. So thanks everybody for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And thanks, Nicole, for having me as part of the Summer of Access webinar series.
This was so wonderful. It was a nice way to end the session, the series, with this in mind. And you asked, what are folks going to, what are you going to do after you leave here and go back? And I think certainly going through this exercise can make you really consider, more reflective of what's my language and what are the things that I'm talking about, and am I putting myself in more of the learner's shoes here and perspectives. Actually, even as I said that, the learner's shoes, there was a session yesterday that was saying, think about the way you use lingo and how you might use a term that others don't understand. So we've got so much to think about, Kelly. This was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, any follow-up questions? Anything you'd like to ask before we wrap up the series and the session? Agnes.
Hi, I'm Agnes. I'm from Toronto, Ontario. Um, and I'm transitioning to a new role where I'm going to be supporting students who did not make it out of high school. It's an access program to community college. And one of the challenges I've had in the past with learners is that they like is building, I guess, enough trust that they are willing to answer the questions. Like
Mhm.
the program I teach in now has so many surveys, and it's
Right.
like students I'm finding like don't necessarily want to do the survey and to give the data, right? So we end up making a lot of assumptions about their needs. And so I'm wondering if you have any helpful tips on how to get a little bit more buy-in or like, you know, engagement
Right.
from the learners to, you know, answer these kind of personal questions about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about maybe there's some ways, like if so, are the surveys all like online surveys that then folks can, like students can choose to fill out or not, or how does that?
Yeah, like I have a pre-course survey. I have like a where are you at survey. Like, but I also know that the institution sends like other surveys
Right.
about,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it becomes a little bit of like, I'm assuming, but like the learners feeling like there's just too many surveys and maybe none of them are important. So I think this, like, I would love to, for example, survey the students or somehow get more information about them as I enter this new position because
Yeah.
it's a very unique group. But at the same time, I know from my past experience that like, um, there's like a fine balance between um inviting them to do the survey, but then also like you
Yeah.
get like one response.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like if there's like a student services maybe department or something, could you talk to them about what kind of feedback they get from students. It might not be like 100% related to the learning, but is there something, some insights there that might help, right? Or if there's a few students that you might put in a bit of a like I'll say like a champions group or like a learning, like some maybe students that are highly engaged or that are showing like other types of or create might provide other types of information that you could maybe more have like an interview with as opposed to a survey or something or something like that. Or if they're feeling a little self-conscious or they're not sure whether you can sort of create some safety that way. But Nicole, I see you've got some ideas too. If they knew their feedback is used and how to demonstrate that feedback is safe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah,
are
thank
those?
you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Nicole, too.
yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming today, Agnes.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we have Kelly's information. Excellent presentation. We'll get the recording out. And just thank you everyone that participated in this series, this session, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thanks again. Take care.
Bye. Courtney had a Agnes, Courtney has something in the chat for you, I think.